Greetings, everyone. Well, last time we took an impromptu look at the 25th anniversary edition of Zombie 2, classic tale of the undead, courtesy of Italian horror master Lucio Fulci. This time around, we're going to look at a couple of other Fulci films that I've had the good fortune to view this Halloween season, namely House by the Cemetery and Manhattan Baby. And that's what we're going to talk about today on the Multimedia Chronicles. So I really enjoyed Zombie 2, so naturally I wanted to check out some of Fulci's other stuff. Now, of course, by the time I started collecting his stuff, a lot of the notable ones were out of print and fetching collector's prices. So, for example, I have not seen The Beyond, which apparently is the other big one that is a must-see Fulci horror film. Yeah, so still waiting to see that. And I see it has been re-released in a special edition recently, though honestly by this point I think I might just hold out for the Blu-ray, because I know Blue Underground is re-releasing a lot of Italian horrors that were previously put out by Anchor Bay and other companies, so I think I'll just hold out for the Blu-ray at this point. So two that I did pick up and got them fairly cheap. We got House by the Cemetery, and we'll give you a look at the cover here as well. Now, a lot of these Anchor Bay releases from the early 2000s are notable in that they are the first time a lot of these movies were available uncut. House by the Cemetery is no exception. Now, this has been released in a lot of budget label releases, but this is the Anchor Bay version, and this is one of the ones to get. If you don't get this one, I think Blue Underground recently re-released it, so get that one. It's basically the exact same thing, just with a Blue Underground label. So let me just give you a quick look at the inside. We have the disc and a reproduction of the poster. It looks like the German version of the poster. Die Haus an der Friedhofmauer. So you got that, and then you got the, you know what, I'll give you a scan of this too, because this will be easy to scan. And it's just real pretty artwork. You gotta love these painted posters. You really just do not see that anymore. Now, one thing that was kind of curious about these Anchor Bay releases is rather than putting a booklet inside, they decided to go sort of the cheap route. And if you flip this over, yeah, on the inside of the insert, you have all this cool behind-the-scenes info and a little essay about the making of the movie, which is pretty cool. Which kind of leads me to wonder, why didn't they go with a clear case instead of a black case? Because then you wouldn't have to take this out whenever you want to read it. You know, it just seems kind of odd to me. The other thing I noticed was they cut it they cut the label kind of short. So if you notice, it doesn't actually fully fill the insert there. So that's kind of odd, and I misaligned it. I'm really anal about aligning the spines properly. That's not bad. So I should talk about the movie a little bit. Essentially, it's this family moves into a house, and there's something in the basement that's killing people. And it's great. It's a good old-fashioned haunted house story mixed with a bit of zombie flesh ripping. So you can't go wrong there. See, now that's a novel twist on it. It's not just a zombie movie. There's a bit more to it than that. And there's a bit of a ghost story going on at the same time. So you got like a mixture of ghost story, zombie story, and just balls-to-the-wall Italian gorehound blood-splattering awesomeness. So you can't go wrong with House by the Cemetery. It's a lot of fun. A lot of people complain, there's a little boy in this, a little boy character in this, who's one of the central characters, and a lot of people complain about him, saying, oh, he's so annoying, I wanted him to die, blah, 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 blah. And I gotta say something about that. Now, ever since becoming a parent, I found that whenever I see a movie or a news story or something about a child in danger or being injured or hurt or killed, it really bothers me a lot more than it used to before I was a parent. It's kind of weird, but when you become a parent, correct me if I'm wrong on this, parents watching, but as a parent, whenever I see something like that in a movie or whatever, I automatically see my child's face in place of the child in peril, you know? It just affects me a lot more deeply. So I guess in that respect, I probably got a lot more out of this movie than some of you single non-parents might. And as such, I had total sympathy for the annoying kid. Because quite frankly, the annoying kid is just being a kid. really. He's no more or less annoying than any other kid that age would be. And quite frankly, I thought he was pretty resourceful in a lot of scenes. So, yes, this kid in question does undergo some pretty serious peril in a few scenes. And I was really hoping that he didn't get brutally killed. Because one thing you gotta know about a Lucio Fulci movie, or just Italian horror in general, is everybody is fair game. Nobody is safe. You could end up at the end of the movie with every single main character dead, for all you know. So, yeah. So anyway, House by the Cemetery. Definitely recommended if you want a good gory Italian horror movie and a zombie fest with a bit of a twist. Random image shift again. Yeah, never let it be said that I film everything in sequence. The first half of this video was done on that day that Rosie was out with Annetta that I was talking about in the previous video. And the second half is actually being done when I did the second half of that video. Yeah, the magic of editing, I tell you. Anywho, that was House by the Cemetery. Very cool, check it out. Next up we have Manhattan Baby. We'll just move over here because we're going to be taking a look at the covers. This is once again an Anchor Bay release. They were doing a series of collections at the time. They had the Dario Argento collection, and this of course was part of the Lucio Fulci collection. Interesting side note, you see the boy on the back cover there with the scorpion in his hair? Yeah, that's actually the aforementioned little boy that annoyed everybody in House by the Cemetery. Yeah, he's back in this one. Different character, though, of course. Yeah, I actually thought the front cover of this was pretty cool. Sort of weird, creepy, ghostly-looking girl, and you can see the makings of a snake down there. It's pretty cool. So, again, we have sort of a similar thing going on in the middle here. You got a nice disc there, single disc edition. And then you got the card here, which, again, reproduces the movie poster and gives you the chapter listing on the back there. And once again, I'll just give you a little scan of that. Probably don't need to be leaning quite so far over. I keep thinking of the Transformers one where I had the full spread of the clamshell covers, and I just had this little sliver of space over on the side of the screen. Okay, so anyway, much like the other one, again, rather than give you a booklet, they gave you all the behind-the-scenes stuff on the inside of the slipcover. So that's kind of interesting. So in terms of the movie itself, Manhattan Baby, essentially what you're looking at is a good old-fashioned Egyptian curse story. That's right. Essentially an archaeologist, foolishly ignoring all the warnings about curses and whatnot, and passing it off as superstition, unearths an ancient tomb and, of course, unleashes the evil contained therein. However, there's a bit of a twist. The evil that is unleashed then takes possession of his young daughter, a girl of about 12 years old, and they head back home to their happy home in Manhattan, where it isn't long before the evil begins to manifest itself in the form of dreams and hallucinations, and even a few deaths along the way. Now you would probably think, oh, well that's perfect material for a typical Italian horror gore fest. And you would think, yeah, probably would be, except in this case, Fulci and his crew decided to do something a little bit different. This is a much more psychological and dreamlike and surreal kind of take on horror rather than being the splatterfest style that most people are probably accustomed to from his other films. And quite frankly, some fans found that disappointing. I didn't have a big problem with it. The only issues I had with it was I found a lot of aspects of the story kind of hard to follow. Like, a lot of things just plain don't make sense in it. And honestly, I can't think of a lot of big examples of that because I've already begun to forget the movie. I usually remember with exquisite detail even the worst movies I've seen. But for some reason, Manhattan Baby is almost entirely forgettable. At least it was to me. So, sorry Lucio, I think you kind of missed the boat on that one. It's not a bad film. I mean, it's perfectly passable as a bit of a fresh take on the old Egyptian curse story. I mean, for one thing, you don't have a mummy shambling around killing people for revenge. Which is kind of funny because I'm going to be finishing up my reviews of the Universal Monsters Legacy collections. Yes, a year later. And one of the sets I'll be talking about is The Mummy, coincidentally. That is a pure coincidence in that I had planned to do The Mummy all along, but had no idea that Manhattan Baby was an Egyptian curse story. I just picked it up because I found it cheap, and it was part of the Lucio Fulci collection. So I thought, oh, okay, yeah, well, at the time I had pretty much brought my Dario Argento collection up to date, so I was looking for some other Italian horror to sink my teeth into, and Fulci was the next big one on the list to check out. So that's what I did. So I essentially just blind bought whatever I found at the time. So of the two, I would definitely recommend House by the Cemetery over Manhattan Baby. But if you're a hardcore Fulci fan and you want to see something that's a little bit different but still falls into his horror category, check out Manhattan Baby. But if you just want a good old-fashioned gore fest with some genuinely tense, edge-of-your-seat suspense, check out House by the Cemetery. I don't think you'll be disappointed. But as I mentioned before, beware of the bargain basement versions. See if you can get your hands on the Anchor Bay version, because it's definitely better. So check out House by the Cemetery when you get the chance. It's good stuff. And of course Zombie 2, but you already know that by now.
We have to sing Rockabye Baby.
No.
Can you sing Rockabye Baby?
No.
No? Okay.
I'm shy at the camera.
You're shy.
Whatever. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna
Go over you.
Can you sing Rockabye Baby?
No. I'm shy. I'm home, on the range, right there, Apollo play, have, dash and wear, play.
How's it going?
You look silly, Daddy.
Thanks.
You're so silly.
Ow!
Alright.
I think it's a bit crooked.
Take a